Hello, everyone, and thank you for taking part in our video conversation. This video conversation is specially recorded for Georgia TV channel TV1, BMG Media Group, and Forbes Georgia blog. Today we have here IE University, MBA and Public Relations faculty students, together with very special guest, Professor of Marketing, Associate Dean of Global and Executive MBA Programs, Mr. Ignacio Gaffo. Mr. Ignacio, thank you again for joining our conversation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And today we will discuss three topics, three main topics. So what are the impacts of COVID-19 on country economies and how governments are dealing with this challenge? What kind of financial packages together with financial institutions they are introducing to support business and the society economical activity and basically restart the economy? And is there the room to do it better? So we will touch the points. And second topic will be how the country's economical models will change based on this event. What will happen to tourism, import, export, and basically how traditional views of economy models and political ideologies can be changed. Can it take place actually? Yeah. And the third topic is within this crisis, if there is a room, if there is a space for countries to emerge as new economic and logistical hubs, and for businesses to push their ideas, technologies in order to innovate and gain comparative advantage and thus explore new potentials of the market. Yeah. So we have seen that some businesses were prepared much more better for this event and some were not. And for the better preparation, as an example, we can bring IE universities, distance learning programs, which we are currently using. And thank you for IE University for such an amazing opportunity. And with your permission, I would like to go with the first topic and ask Unai, who is from Spain. And Spain was badly hit by this coronavirus pandemic. And ask Unai, what's the situation now in Spain and how government are dealing with it? What's their plans to support economy and restart economy?
Yeah, hello.
So, Unai, please.
So the measurement taken by the government is that of the time that we are not working, the workers, the government is paying 70% of the salary that we are losing, up to 1,100 euros per month as a limit. Other topic that they are introducing or trying to introduce is the minimum wage for families with low income. And they are pointing that this will lead to 3,000 million euros per year. That will be the necessary money for the minimum wage, and it will affect 3 million Spanish people. On the long run, right now, Spain has some deficit, so it's a problematic situation. So Spain will need investment from other places. Right now, it's not the economic situation is not only sustainable by the products that we have in our country. Yeah. And in addition, I was not going to mention it here, but you may know that tourism is one of the major participants of the Spanish economy, and the service sector, which is the main heated sector for the economy right now.
Yeah, and exactly with this question, I would like to go to Carmen, which is also from Spain. And Carmen, how do you think how Spain economy can recover from the situation? Tourist sector is suffering, some import-export things are suffering yet. So how do you think will it shape economical models of countries? Or if it's not, how government are going to replace money generators from, for example, based on Spain, money from tourism, how they can replace this?
Now, I think some changes are going to take place in how the economy is structured. On the first place, I think that we are going to realize the importance of local manufacturing for essential services, for medical services. We are going to bring the supply chains, not in every business, closer, even if a bit more expensive. Thirdly, I think that working from home and studying from home, because we've seen how difficult it's been for the educational sector, because unfortunately we don't have many IEs in Spain to survive this scenario. So I think that working from home, studying from home will become the new normal. And finally, I would like to think that we are going to understand the importance of further investing in education, in healthcare, and in R&D. But in this case, I'm not so positive about the fact that once this is over, we will not start cutting again and putting the money elsewhere.
Okay, but basically you are expecting a little bit shift towards own production, yes, as far as I understand, yeah? So creating more own products within the country.
In essential products and in healthcare products, because we've seen what happens when we have a crisis and we need to rely on supplies from elsewhere. Now, whether that's going to be the new normal for all kinds of manufacturing, then I don't think so for certain things.
Okay, so basically strategically important products, yeah. So, and Unai, can we see some opportunities for countries to push new, or business entities for pushing new ideas, new innovations, and what kind of ideas could it be?
Well, as Carmen mentioned, I think the first topic and the first thing that Spain needs to focus is in investing on our healthcare system that we have. Right now it's suffering and it's maintaining our country, so the first investment needs to be done there. But yeah, definitely every crisis brings opportunities associated with it. And as I mentioned before, we are highly dependent on Europe and we are not seeing a unity in all the decisions in Europe. So I think Spain needs to invest in some differentiated product. And as we had in the past, Spain, I don't know if everyone knows, but Spain before the 2008 crisis was one of the major powers on renewable energy on the world. Even Obama was mentioning that Spain was doing really well. So one of the new opportunities that I see on the market is that everyone after this pandemic wants to go more to the climate, is more aware of the climate change and what is going on. So maybe opportunity there, Spain can invest into renewable energies and get back to where it was before the crisis of 2008. And on the other hand, and related with that, there is also some concern on the car industry. There was some concerns at the beginning of the year on the supply chain of batteries. Everyone wants to go electric now, but there is no supply chain. So maybe Spain can use the actual structure that they have for car manufacturers, that is the major export right now, and change it to a differentiated product on battery side to sell the product.
Okay, so new old innovations will take a new story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to now go to Eli and ask him about the situation in Lebanon. And I know that Lebanon is heavily dependent on tourism as well, and they have trade deficit. So could you, Eli, explain what's the situation now and what governments are doing to come out from this crisis, or not go in, or not dive into the economic crisis?
Thank you, Nick. So in the case of Lebanon, unfortunately, the COVID-19 is a crisis within a crisis. So before the COVID-19 situation happened, Lebanon was already facing a financial crisis that started in October 2019 with protest and basically a revolution on the streets against the corruption that was rampant in the country. Now, if you take a step back, Lebanon has a major public debt, almost 150% of GDP, one of the largest in the world. Actually, it's the third largest in the world. And to add to that, we have a large trade deficit. So Lebanon imports roughly $18 billion of goods and export $3 billion. So you can see a major trade deficit of $15 billion. To add to that, we had a fiscal deficit of 10%. So if you look at the situation, we were already not in a good shape. What the COVID-19 introduced was another factor. or another crisis that we also are facing difficulties to deal with. So firstly, Lebanon relies on the financial sector heavily. And since the protests erupted in October 2019, we have seen lack of foreign investment or lack of remittance to Lebanon, to Lebanese banks, which obviously has put a halt on the economy. So what Lebanon relies on, and this is basically part of the GDP, is tourism. So we rely heavily on tourism. And as you can imagine, with the whole COVID-19 situation, tourism has also been put to a hold. All the small businesses, restaurants, the food and beverage industry are also at risk of failing. So the government has to step in. But unfortunately, as I've explained, we do not have much leverage. There's not enough room for the government to manipulate and to control the situation. And for that reason, we need a loan from the IMF in order, or a bailout from the IMF in order to salvage the situation.
My main question is, now you have this trade deficit. Are you going to shift more towards local production, or what government is thinking about this?
Yes. So one of the reasons, one of the conditions for Lebanon to get a loan is actually to apply much needed reforms. And obviously, as you've highlighted, one of the ways in order to mitigate that massive reliance on import is obviously to produce locally. So there should be investment in local production, in agriculture and in manufacturing, obviously in order to limit the imports of goods from abroad. And apart from that, we need to diversify our economy. So at the moment, we mainly rely on the financial sector, and that should not be the case in the future. We should invest more in local production, provide investment or loans, zero interest loans, or at least very minimal interest loans for local producers in order to grow local production.
Okay, thank you, Eddie. And now I would like to go to Grace.
Grace. Thanks. Our package has been the biggest aid package in South America. It's only comparable to Denmark, and it's equivalent to 12% of our GDP. It includes bonus to vulnerable population, a release on a percentage of unemployment fund, and also a big launch of Reactiva Peru, which is a government-funded initiative to lend low-interest money to companies in order to reactivate the economy after everything happens. And everything goes back to the new normal. And also the government has been subsidizes up to 35% of the workforce of the companies in order to also help them survive these hard times. Peru is an agricultural country, so 5% of our GDP is here. So I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for farmers. So I think we're already doing good, and what we have to do is to promote Peruvians to consume Peruvian. I think it's going to help in tourists and reactivating this area as well.
Oh, okay, so it's kind of this event is promoting nationalism as well, yeah, so far.
Yeah, I think we're already kind of good at it, and of course we have to promote it. Like, for example, people are trying to say, like, now when travel bans are lifted, please go and visit Peru before you go abroad. So I think we're kind of nationalistic already.
Okay. So with these ideas and thoughts and questions, I would like to go to Stefan, who is the student of public relation and aware of political science. So, Stefan, I would like to give you the question. We have heard that a lot of countries are saying shifting towards local production. This is against free market. I think not free market, but comparative advantage ideologies and something like that. Do you see actually economical and political ideology clashes? Stefan?
Well, something that's definitely been evident throughout this pandemic is that certain social, political, and economic cleavages have been not only uncovered, but also exacerbated. These go along the lines of political ideologies all the way to economic ideologies. We definitely see a period of time where we'll see a lot of reshaping, not only in our domestic agendas, but also in our foreign agendas. That's why it's important that we realize that a paradigm shift doesn't mean that we would restore life as it was before or something else. We would actually evolve and create a new sort of reality. And that's why going back to normal will mean that we will have to go along a narrative that is both sustainable and in the sense that we will go back to the economic figures that we were before, to our GDPs, all of that, but also back to the interconnectedness that basically epitomized globalization.
Okay, thank you for your point, Stefan. And lastly, I would like to ask Mr. Ignacio, how do you see this future with this pandemic? Would it go away and we will get back to normal, or it will have its footprints on our lives and it will change our lives in the future?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nicolas, for the invitation. Very happy to be here representing IE University together with you. Let me summarize maybe some points that were raised, because I think it's very, very important to summarize, and then maybe I can take it from there. So the starting point, as you said, this is at the beginning a very health issue. You know, it's a pandemic, it's something we are dealing with, but obviously it's going to have very, very strong economic implications, especially in the short term. The problem is the starting point for quite a few countries, and you gave very good examples about Spain and Lebanon, for instance, is everything's going to be boosted. So if you are in a very shaky position because you have problems with the structurals, like the ones you referred about, dependency on tourism or dependency on imports, the problem is the situation is going to be very, very hard, especially in the short term. Probably in this situation, okay, what we need is support from international institutions. So you mentioned the European Union, you mentioned the International Monetary Fund, and probably there's going to be in the midterm some sort of equilibrium. Okay, we are going to go through a recession. That's very, very clear. At some point, I think we get back to normal from an economic perspective. But also something you touched on is, well, this is not only an economic issue. There's going to be profound implications here, right? And you spoke specifically about the changing habits or changing preferences. And this is going to be connected to something called digitalization that you also referred to, which means the companies, countries are not going to have a chance but to update themselves. Okay, we have seen very good examples. You mentioned remote working, remote education, but this is going to go deeper. And a third dimension, which I think it's important, is this is not only about economics, technology, it's also about political and social factors, no? And there are quite a few things at stake, no? Because it depends on how institutions are going to react, depends on how we manage solidarity. We're going to be facing very, very different scenarios. Everybody speaks now about the new normal, in the sense that things are going to change. Let's see what happens. I think there's going to be a sort of inertia, and that's something you've told me before, right? That probably we will try to go back to what was normal before. But definitely, I think it's going to be a change here. No, this is going to be an alert, and something which is going to be essential is basically how leaders, how each one of you is going to manage the situation. That's probably what's going to define the outcome of this, which could be better or could be worse than what we are having. Definitely, it's a change. We have huge opportunities. We can work on building up the right measures so that we break with the dependencies and we make sure, I don't know, we refine supply chain management, we leverage those new habits, but we need a very, very strong doses of reflective leaders that we call, people that have the right vision about the world. No, it's not only, again, as it's been clearly explained, economics, it's considering everything together. And then with that global vision, with that global mindset, probably we will be able to make the right decisions. But I think we have, all of us, a very, very strong responsibility, in whatever comes next. And I know we always say it's about politics or politicians that should be making the decisions, which is true. I think they have a very big impact in whatever is coming. But also each one of us, I think we have, as leaders, people we are dealing with, etc., a very strong responsibility, to make things move in the right direction. So hopefully we will make the best. We will be able to innovate, but also, why not? We will take the occasion to fix structural problems that we have.
Yeah, and I totally agree that to predict future what will happen will be, it's very hard. But actually, the main question is there is the time which brings us changes? Like, is this event will bring us change?
So Sheila is like speaking about the reality as liquidity, and I think it's a very visual term, no? And I think what's going to happen here is everything has been accelerated. You know, you gave some examples about Peru, but I think it's applicable to the entire world. I mean, we are speeding up the changes we were having. So it's a great opportunity now to make things work, to make things happen, to be proactive, to try out new things, to change the mindset, to start collaborating. So definitely yes, to your question, it's time for change. But also I think it's time for very strong leadership, no? Because not every change is going to be valid. So we have to be aware about what's at stake, which is a lot. And also we have quite a few things we could do. You know, we can start thinking differently. We can try out things. And believe me, if we grab the opportunity, something very, very good will come out of this, no?
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you for all of you for being part of our conversation. I think it was very interesting. And let's see, I think I also agree that this is the time for opportunities, and we should, with the new skills, with the new knowledge, which is actually acquired in our university, part of the skills, we can use these opportunities in a better way that it can be used. So thank you again.